I was one of the resented ones. The Camino de Santiago has been a flashpoint for me in my life now. The Camino stretches, as you know, across the northern parts of Spain towards the bones of St. James. You've heard me refer to it often now since that walk, and I suspect it's going to be a reference point for me for the rest of my life. It is the oldest Christian pilgrimage in the world. 3 years ago now, I think, 24 of us went and walked that Camino. Most of us in our group started at about the 100-mile mark and walked about those 100 miles to our destination. But many started about the 500-mile point. And we entered onto the way. We were beginning at their 400-mile mark to walk with them. It was mostly fun to catch up with each other and hear the dramatic and the grace-filled stories of their walking for those previous 400 miles. What they saw, who they met, the troubles they faced, the challenges they surmounted, and the perennial question one walker would ask the other, why? Why did you choose to do this? Why are you walking the Camino? When it was my turn to share, having just been on the road for maybe 3 days by then, I could tell my fellow traveler was kind of listening and kind of agitated, because people really have nothing to lose opening their heart to each other those days of pilgrimage, probably never seeing each other again the rest of our lives. We were pretty frank with each other, really. One of them was pretty honest about his take on this discrepancy. He gave me a look, a look I'll never forget. And he said he resented those of us who were having great experiences, even life-changing experiences he was having as well. But I was only walking about 100 miles, and he was walking about 500 miles. And so he blurts out to me, I find myself irritated. I resent you guys. I'm annoyed that you guys all start the last 100 miles when I and so many others have walked like 500 altogether. And you're having the same experiences and will boast of your walking, but I struggled mightily for 2 extra months than you did. And I just keep finding myself resentful as I walk and talk to you who got on this journey later on over what you're getting out of this when you didn't put in nearly the effort most of us did. That look followed immediately. My little buddy on the Camino had a bad case of stink eye. He gave me the evil eye. And it wasn't cool. I really didn't know what to say to him right then, actually. What do you say to someone who's envious and whose envy leads to resentment, especially when I did nothing wrong? I encountered other people on the way, actually too, more than I would have expected, considering the supposed spiritual, religious focus of this journey, who scoffed at those who did not do the whole 800K. That person only started in Pamplona. That person only started in Burgos or Leon or Sarria. Tisk, tisk. I asked others, this awareness was beginning to grow on me. I asked others as we walked if they had ever heard or felt something like that. And one replied, my standard response when I hear this is to say everyone has his or her own Camino, and where they started doesn't really matter. Everyone has his or her own Camino, and where they started does not matter. But he too found himself thinking along the way, he said, about Sarria, for example, that stretch between Sarria and Santiago. Before I could suppress the thought, it did occur to me, and I found myself saying to myself, weak, lame. My pilgrimage was longer, more arduous, and superior. Lame. And he went on to add, finally, either it is human nature or I'm just a bad person. Maybe it's a little bit of both that I thought those things. The stink eye. It's the eye of envy. It's when people look at us with envy, resenting an experience of life we are having, that perhaps they think has come to us too easily, or we didn't really deserve what we got. We didn't pay the price they had to pay for what they experienced. We started out ahead of them or behind them or whatever, and we were just happy, and they're not. We're just happy, and they're not. And so we ended up getting that stink eye. The story Jesus tells of the landowner, the vineyard owner, who went out into town and hired a few workers that day at an agreed upon wage. Later in the day, he hired others to work for the rest of that day, and then still others later on who worked even less than both of those groups. Both of those crews, all three of those crews, actually got the same wage. What's wrong with this picture? It becomes clear in the complaints of the workers who were in the first group, hired, who ended up getting paid the same as those at the end of the day, who only worked a couple of hours in that same hot sun, because they're all in this line getting paid, and those first hired were given the last hired stink eye. I mean, literally, the translation in the Hebrew in that text is they were getting the evil eye from the ones who got paid the same as the ones who came on later. They were getting the evil eye from these guys. The vineyard owner in this story is publicly accusing the grumblers of evil eye envy. He's publicly saying, you guys have evil eye envy in front of this whole crew. What I would have found myself doing in that same scenario, I can tell you this for sure. I would have tried to have gotten paid. I would have loved getting all the pay for 2 hours. But I would have found myself edging over to the vineyard owner so that the guys who came in early wouldn't see how much I was getting paid, so that they wouldn't be jealous. I would be working really hard to not make them jealous. It would change my day. It would change my behavior. I'd feel bad, even guilty, for getting what they got. I would pretend it wasn't happening. I'd slide the money quickly into my pocket and scamper away so they wouldn't know what I just got that they didn't. Stink eye envy. The ancient world accused, the accusation of having a stink eye in the ancient world is a serious one. It really was. In Jesus' world, especially in the time preceding him, it was really bad to give somebody the stink eye, the evil eye. As a matter of fact, they wore amulets to ward it off. They were given amulets so that when somebody gave them the stink eye, it wouldn't get into their heart, and it would deflect that back. And having seen how often my behaviors change around people who get jealous or envious of me, how I reorder so many things so people don't get jealous, I totally understand. Give me an amulet. Give me anything to not take this personally, introject this into my own heart, and end up scampering away, ungrateful even for the money, feeling guilty over something that was agreed on and is actually just. I didn't do anything wrong. Why are they jealous of me? I remember one guy in the seminary, I've told this story maybe about 20 years ago now, but I wake up pretty quickly in the morning. I wake up really well most of the time, and I'm in a good mood, really. And as most of the students could tell you, I can walk down 5 minutes after I wake up and be in a serious conversation most of the time about something. Well, there was one guy in my class who resented my happiness in the morning, resented it, hated me for it. And one morning we had these common bathrooms, 40 guys in one bathroom, 7 urinals. And I'm standing there again 3 minutes after waking up, and you guys know how important what you're doing then really is. And I'm standing there, and he just says, I just really hate you. And I thought, whoa. And he was serious. I mean, he used the word hate for resentment, but he was really hating me for being so happy. Now, when you're just standing there doing what you're supposed to do. But I got to tell you, the rest of that semester, I was mute around him in the morning. I muted my joy. I stopped singing and whistling and chattering because it made him resentful. I needed an amulet. I need something to deflect that back because it was messing me up. I'm telling you, it was messing me up. The story ends with this question facing the hearers. Do you have evil eye envy because of God's goodness that makes all people equal to one another? Is that why you have evil eye envy? Is that why you have stink eye? Instead of the good eye would be so different than that. The good eye would see goodness, and therefore, when it sees goodness, would respond with goodness. The good eye is able to be happy for the other person's experience that they're having, even if we did not have it ourselves. The good eye is able to be happy for what another human being is experiencing, even if I didn't have it myself. They could not be happy for those other guys' good luck. When somebody else gets a good deal, even if it's a better deal than we got, why shouldn't we be able to find it in ourselves to be happy for them? And so should they for us. Yep, that green-eyed monster, envy. Periodically, we've all had stink eye. We give each other stink eye when we think this other person has it better than we do. When people have things we don't have, especially when we are working really, really hard for what we have, and it's not anything like what they have. We have stink eye when we look at people who are inheriting millions of dollars from their grandparents to their parents to themselves, and they never did anything to earn it ever in their life, and so we give them the stink eye. We try to find things wrong with them, how unhappy they must really be deep down inside because they got all that. You get it, I'm telling you. We have stink eye when we work really hard to get a good grade, and my friend seems to work hardly at all and gets the same grade. I have stink eye when my friend Ken preaches a home run homily, and he does it after preparation for an hour and a half, and it takes me 7. I'm telling you, drives me crazy. I think sometimes people give us the evil eye also, and I want to say this clearly because I want this to be your awareness to be your amulet. Awareness can be your amulet. People give us the evil eye because of our faith. I am here to tell you, I get it all the time, and I think you do too. People resent that you believe. People resent that you believe in something. People resent that you work through suffering with some sort of meaning and hope that they don't have. And say they will give you trouble about it. They're going to give you the stink eye because you have faith. My friends, be wary of stink eye. Be wary of other people's resentment because it can ruin your day and end up making you question yourself when it's really they who should be questioning themselves. Resentment is insidious. It destroys the one who is resentful. And as the ancient one that's new, it destroys. It can destroy the one who's looked at with that evil eye. My friends, when someone looks at you with stink eye, get down on your knees and pray that you be able to love them as they are and love them well. And resist questioning yourself. It's their problem, really, and it's true to say that. And if you're the one with stink eye, Jesus says in another place, pluck it out. If your eye is the occasion of sin, he says, pluck it out. If you're the one and caught up and given stink eye to another human being, you need to be totally alert to this and pluck it out. In other words, take a good hard look at the entitlement that has crept into your heart, that somehow you're entitled to that experience, whatever it is, that's absolutely murdering your joy. It can lead to the self-destruction of love. That's true. It can lead to the self-destruction of love. And I'm telling you, if people see you with stink eye towards them, if they see that you can't be happy for them when they've had successes you haven't had, if they've seen that, it will be the death of love. Nothing will turn people away from you more, I suspect, than you would be unable to be happy for them when they succeed. This is not an aside project in our lives. This is front and center if we want love to work for us. We have to be able to celebrate the breakthroughs and the successes that will become for other people who then will become our friends. Believe me, nobody wants to be friends with somebody with stink eye. Bottom line, regarding the specifics of those people I talked about on the way, on the Camino, one of them wrote this to me. Bottom line, Father Gary, I believe the quantity of the pilgrimage did indeed add to the quality of it. I personally cannot imagine having had the same experience had I not begun where I did at the 500-mile point. For me, it took those extra 400 miles. But I trust that each of us got what we needed to get. No stink eye in that.